Today's guest is Helen Rapoza, owner of Helen's Haven.
Aloha everyone, thank you for tuning in to our next episode of Hawaii Leads, where we interview Hawaii's leaders, entrepreneurs, affluent, dominators, and skilled. And my next guest is Helen Rapoza of Helen's Haven.
Hi, thanks for coming in.
So Helen, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this beauty industry that you have thriving today.
I originally started in a cosmetic department on the mainland in a drugstore, and I started doing some work with Revlon and some freelance work with Revlon, and that's what I did after I moved here.
Oh.
And gosh, that was when I was 17, and now in my 50s, it's just progressed. It's just kind of grown on its own.
Yeah.
I started doing exclusive skincare when I was in my mid-20s, maybe 25, 26, worked for somebody else, and went out on my own. It was never the plan. It
I
just
love that,
evolved.
yeah.
I knew that I could do a good service and that people would come back. That part I knew. I had no understanding of everything else
About
that is
business.
involved in business. I
Just-
had no clue, but I knew I could treat people well. I knew that as a Christian, I wanted to represent God in my business, and that's pretty much all I knew.
Wow.
The rest was totally foreign.
Wow.
I knew about inventory and inventory control from working retail, so that was a good background for me to start. I had no idea about hiring, firing, policy manuals, training manuals. I had no idea about any of that. So what I've learned, one of the best things I've learned, is that just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to run a business. You know, if you don't know your numbers, give them to your CPA. They'll
Right,
explain
right.
them. You know, you got to have a team behind the scenes to just keep you moving forward. And for me, I am still a service provider. So I'm still in the room. And that's what I enjoy. So I don't have enough time for everything else.
Right.
So then you have to be able to learn who to trust and who not to trust.
And you know, I think that's a very common thread with all the other business owners I've been interviewing so far. Having a team is so vitally important. How did you approach, you know, getting your own place and coming up with Helen's Haven?
You know, for me, it was totally not planned. You know, as many people, I really enjoy what I do, and I enjoyed where I worked, but I wanted to do more. We did a certain service, and that's what we did. And now you can see we've really progressed. We progressed into medical
Right.
aesthetics, all this other stuff. So I had a desire to do more and to really keep up with the industry, what's new, what's out there.
Right.
We talked previously about technology. What new
Yes.
technology is affecting the industry?
Yes.
So I really had that desire. So that was the basis. And then I went, oh, do I rent a room somewhere? Do I open up? What do I do? A real estate agent said, have you thought about Kahala? I said, no, I don't even know where Kahala is, but okay. And before I knew it, within 30 days, I got my first business loan.
Wow. Talk about that, because I'm going to be interviewing Jane Sawyer from Small Business Association. And
Oh my gosh, she was such a help when I started.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ken Unterman too
Yes.
of Pictures
Yes.
Plus said she
Yes.
was such a gem.
Yes.
How everybody started. So tell me your journey to SBA. Were you? Because for me, I went there the other day, and it's kind of intimidating. There's so much to be done. So
Okay, but SBA has a program, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but basically it's retired executives. It's probably called something about retired executives, but retired executives who volunteer their time and help people get started.
Wow.
And it's awesome because they've done all this. So they were the ones that helped me with the business plan.
Wow.
They were the ones that walked me through the whole business loan process. And then I got an SBA back loan. That's how I first started. And they were the ones that really, I don't know I would have gotten it without the SBA backing, honestly. And then I worked with, affiliated with Hawaii Small Business Development Center. And so they really take your hand and walk you through
That's
everything.
good.
And that was really so worth it.
Yeah.
So for me to find a location, get the loan, start construction, took 30 days. mind-boggling fast.
That is really fast.
It's really fast. I have to say, I think
that's actually record speed.
Yeah, well, yes, it was. I've done construction several times since. It's very slow, so it was record speed. However, I don't know if I would have opened had I had enough time to think about it. You know, ignorance is really bliss.
Yeah, I think because people, like I talk to many of my guests, they want to get their ducks in a row. But when you get into business, there's really no ducks in a row. You learn as you go along. And also, things will always change. So the thing is to just go in and dive in, but at the same time, have the backing like you did, have some guidance. Right.
Definitely guidance and advice. A wise man has many counselors. Guidance and advice. However, if you have decision constipation, you're never going to do it because you're never going to step out.
Right.
You've got to have the courage to step out and do something. If you don't do anything, what's the point?
Right. It'll just stay in your head and never get to fruition.
Right.
And I think that's a fine line between those, and obviously it is kind of scary, but the common thread I also found between all of you entrepreneurs and leaders and whatnot is that the passion was so great they did it anyway, no matter what the risk or what they had to change, you know, as they're going along. You love it so much that you're going to do it anyway, whatever it is.
If you think you can make a better mousetrap, if you really truly think it, then you'll do it. I never thought about failure.
That's
never.
A good tip. That's
because
a good tip.
If you think you're going to fail, you know, you're going to get what you're thinking about. Where is your focus? If you're focused on I'm going to succeed, then that's what you're going to do.
That's
because
great
inevitably
advice.
you get what you focus on. And I never thought I was going to fail.
That's
I also
amazing.
never thought I was going to be in business 23 years either. So, you know, I was somewhere in the middle.
Right. Yeah. Well, so tell us about your company, when you opened it, and then how did you find the products that you wanted and the services when you first started? Because back up a little, because the first time I went to your place, it was in a different location.
Right.
It was above the subway in Kahala. And I think I did some microdermabrasion and stuff like that. But that's when I met Helen, and we're talking about 20 something years ago. Yeah. We're so young.
We've been in this location for 12 years. So it's more than,
so she moved into a better location because the other one was upstairs. But anyway, when you first got it started, how did you figure out what you wanted to give as far as a service, and also what kind of products, and then how did you get your clients?
We started out doing just facials. That's all we did, was what we call our signature facial. Now, that's pretty much all we did at that time when we started. We started to add on different equipment pretty quickly. So we were the first ones to do that microdermabrasion on the island. And I found that by one of my clients. She went to the mainland and she had it done, and she came back and she said, "You have to do this." So I was like, "Okay, we'll do it."
And back then, that was a big deal.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have any of this fancy stuff today.
Right. So a lot of what I find is just simply through other people. People go somewhere and they're like...
So you're doing your own market research with your own people.
Yeah, all the time.
That's the best way, because you want to know what they're looking for. It's not what you want, it's what they want.
All the time. I not only encourage my staff to go elsewhere, I actually pay for them to go elsewhere.
To learn more things?
Yes. Oh. And the best is when they have a bad service somewhere. It's awesome. They come back and they're like, "Oh, this was wrong, that was wrong." And I'm like, "Yay, aren't we looking good now?"
Right.
Yeah. So you learn so much by other people. If you're going to stick in your own little corner, you're never going to learn. You know, that's why there's trade shows. That's why there's things for whatever industry you're in to learn more. So it's all about that. So when we first started, a lot of research. Trade magazines.
Because we didn't have Google back then.
Correct.
No Google.
Correct. So every ad that looked interesting, every article, looking up ingredients, all that kind of stuff to find a line to carry. I actually wanted to carry a line that I was familiar with, but I was not allowed to. Because another place carried it where I'd worked, and so they said
it's exclusive. To that person.
So it was a lot of learning, big learning curve. And then you just, narrow down a lot of samples, just trying things and learning things. Are you
your own guinea pig?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And then, business moves along, everything's going great. And then our line that we were carrying stopped being distributed in the U.S.
Oh, no.
So we were like, oh, what now?
What do we do
So
now?
again, trade shows, magazines, whatever it
and
is.
always evolving. 'cause
Always
you have
evolving.
to.
Oh yeah. Stagnant is not an option. You've got to evolve and move forward.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so we've gone through a lot of changes. You know that when we first opened, we burned down.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, we burned down.
Is
So
this
that was
the one upstairs we're talking about? It burned?
Yeah.
Oh, what year was this?
Right when we opened. So we opened.
Oh, dang. That's a huge challenge right there.
I know. But you know what? It was okay because I didn't really like the carpet. And I didn't really like the countertops, so we got to change them. So it was all good. But yeah, that delayed us a little bit. And so
my goodness.
starting over again. Yeah.
So you had to face all those challenges, and of course, when you're going through something like that, there's no income because people aren't coming in.
Correct.
So did you have enough capital to carry you through?
At that particular time, I did. Yes.
Oh, good.
But there's been 2 other times where our business has stopped.
And completely?
Well, pretty much. After during 9/11, the day of 9/11,
yes.
we lost 50% of our income, just overnight.
Everyone did.
Yes, everything stopped. So what do you do?
Right.
So you have to adjust. You have to do something. For us, we actually invested in new equipment just to create that excitement and have people come back.
I see.
So that's how we survived that.
Wow. Let me ask you that.
Yes.
What was it that you brought in? That was...
Oh, at that time, we brought in an ultrasonic skin scrubber. It exfoliates and puts stuff deeper into your skin. We don't even have that anymore. But
Right.
Yeah.
But that was the
Things
newest
come and
thing.
go. Yeah.
So after the fire and you overcame that, after 9/11, you overcame that. Let me ask you about 2008 when everything crashed.
Yeah, that was horrible.
For you too.
That was horrible.
And you were here in this new location.
We were in the new location. We moved here in 2005.
Oh, and the crash was 3
In
years later.
2006, I think it was, my husband and I bought a townhouse in Hawaii Kai, and we had a condo we were renting out in town. So everything was looking good, but really we were in over our head with mortgages, and then with all the expenses of this business. So in 2008, when the economy tanked, we lost everything.
Your 2 homes? And how did you keep this afloat? This.
You know what? We almost went bankrupt, and we met with a bankruptcy attorney and laid everything out, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
I see.
I just couldn't live under the stress. I couldn't. I was like, where do we go from here? And the attorney said, you're not ready to file yet.
Oh.
But
so you're kind of on that fine line. Like you
Correct.
need help.
Correct.
You want protection from the creditor, from the collectors.
Right.
But you weren't in that. You weren't in that area yet.
So he laid out a plan where we changed everything. We changed the way we paid. I want to say we changed our corporation type. We changed a lot of background stuff, if you will, and that helped us to survive. Wow. My husband and I sold our properties.
The two properties.
So we sold the roof over our head, which was our choice. I felt like I had signed papers, so I was responsible.
I see.
And so I wasn't going to go through a whole, the
foreclosure
loan
thing.
modification, the this, the that. And I respect people who fought and they're still in their homes. That's great. But for me,
I just
felt like,
you had to release it. And that's one less thing to think about.
Yeah. So now we're renting a small little home in Kaimaki. But, just without that stress, it's been just amazing.
Yeah. That's a balancing act in itself. And I know that the people that I've interviewed so far, they all have challenges, but yours is the most significant overcoming I think I've heard so far. As far as
what, the night before we decided to sell our house, we sat at my husband and I sat at our dining room table. Oh, this is hard. And I said, I can't do this. I can't do this, and I want a divorce.
Oh, it got that stressful.
I said, I want to sell this house, split the proceeds, call it a day. I'm done. I cannot do this. And he said, okay.
Well, at that point, how long were you married?
Well, we're married. We got married in '94.
Oh, so yeah, you guys
A
were
long
together
time.
for a long
Yeah,
time.
a lot. Yeah, forever. Yeah. So I really was so done with everything because if you're under that kind of financial stress,
Yes.
you know,
Finances will do it.
when you're a business owner and you can't pay yourself and you're working 60 hours a week for nothing. Well, during that time, total respect to everybody. During that time, people were taking furlough Fridays
Yes.
and complaining about that. And I was like, I've taken 100% pay cut.
Yeah.
100%. I cannot afford to pay myself. My husband is a bartender. He worked in 2 different restaurants. One of the restaurants closed.
Oh my.
So we were surviving off 25% of what we were making.
That is tough. I've been
So-
through that too.
It was really, really challenging. It was very challenging. And when you know that your payroll's tomorrow and you know you don't have the money,
What
you're
do you
just
do?
like, what do you do? You can't even rob Peter to pay Paul anymore.
Right. It's at that point.
It's just, there's nothing.
done that too.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Right.
So, you know, just takes a lot of faith.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can never let go of your faith. If you let go of your faith, you have no hope.
Exactly.
And when you lose your hope, you know, I just think you're done. I just think you're done. I just think, personally, my own personal beliefs is that, you know, God says I came to give you life and life more abundant. And I was not living that abundant life. And I'm like, okay, but you promised.
Right.
But you promised.
So this is when you do the questioning
So
part.
I really, really had to say, okay, these are his promises. So I got to be able to stand on that and be able to move forward. So you know what? I learned. So yeah, so you should see like the young people now ask me questions. I'm like, oh no, don't do that. No. Are you saving money? Don't ever use the credit card. Are you saving? Yeah. So now I'm like, you know, like the reformed alcoholic. I was like, never drink. Now I'm like that. So. But you know what? We survived. We are almost debt free.
Wow. I love that.
So, you know, here it is 2017 and it's way better.
So what do you
better.
think was a turning point when you came to that very bottom of the barrel? Because a lot of us face that. If you've lived life as long as we have, because you know we're about the same age demographic, you come through all of that. What was a turning point when you were at the dining room table and you were going to give it all up? How did it change from that point to where you are now? Because you're thriving.
I don't know. I think that's a very good question. I don't think there was one significant thing that happened, but I think there were so many things. Again, like when I started, it was so fast. So we decided to sell the house. A week later, we had an open house, and it sold in a week.
In that time.
Yes,
That's amazing.
Yes. And the only reason we were even ready for the open house is a bunch of friends went over, and they just 4 hours we were ready.
Wow.
So it was incredibly fast. And then we ended up, okay, you know what? We don't have a home.
Where are we going to live?
We have no roof over our head.
I've been in that transition too. You
Yes.
sell your house, but where am I going to live now? I've done that too. I've done that too.
We don't have family here.
Oh.
We didn't have a home. Late mortgage payments on our credit, and a dog. And we were like,
who can take the dog?
Okay.
Because we had 2 dogs.
Okay.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. So in between clients, you know, you're on Craigslist and you're looking and, you know, updating your search and whatever. And there was this little tiny house. So I called them right away and set up an appointment to go see. And meanwhile, I had emailed my clients and said, hey, we have no place to live. But you know what? Worst comes to worst, I have 5 beds.
Right. You have all
and a
those
gym
rooms in the
membership, so
back.
you can take a shower, you know. So it wasn't, so my worst case was
Oh my
not
goodness.
horrible.
Right,
It would
right,
still
right.
be somewhere, you know.
Oh my goodness, that's so great.
So within 24 hours, we found this place. The next couple days, a few days after, we went and saw it. The landlord told us that 40 people had seen it, and there were people driving off as we drove in. We had a 10-minute conversation with him.
That many people wanted that one property.
Yes. This is 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
So the landlord said, do you have money? And my husband and I were like, do you mean like right now? And he was like, yeah, do you have money? My husband literally says, I have $200 in my pocket. So he says, okay, give me that money. Come back tomorrow with the rest. And we're like, okay.
Oh my.
So we walked out and we didn't know what happened. We walked out and we're like, did we just rent this house? Like, it was so odd and everything happened so quickly. So,
oh my.
so then, and I told the landlord, I said, we have a dog. And he says, it's okay, I like dogs. I said, are you sure? We have a dog.
Oh, nice.
And then I said, you know what, you better pull a credit report. And he said, no, it's okay. I said, no, you better pull a credit report because our credit's bad because we have late mortgage payments. You better pull that report. He said, no, it's okay.
Wow, that's a dream
I know.
landlord.
Yeah. No, he's been really nice. Yeah. I mean, we fixed up the property because we live there. So, so it's kind of been a win-win for both of us. And I think that's great.
Well, that sounds
but
like
yeah, I
it brought the light back into whatever you're doing.
It took away the financial stress. So our rent, okay, I'm pretty much an open book, you guys, but our mortgage was $3,400 a month. Our rent is $15,000.
Wow.
So right off the bat, we gave up space, but we gained back so much.
Right.
So I truly believe that all things work for good.
Yes.
And I believe that when you're at your absolute worst, that good is going to happen.
Yeah, it just turns around. It's been happening that way for me. That's the kind of story of my life. But it goes back to having faith and what you love to do and just hanging on to that.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now you've expanded. We did a little bit of footage of your place here with the 5 rooms, and you also even have your own line. Your own line. It's right behind us.
I do.
How many years have you had your own line now? Or you just started?
4, I think.
Oh, nice.
I think it's been 4. Right. I work with a lab in Vancouver, BC. So it's an international line.
Yeah, that's cool.
There you go. So, it is all, it's a very anti-aging line. I'm 55 now, so I'm all about anti-aging.
I'm about to be 55.
Yeah, see, there you go.
In 2 months.
Yeah, so it's all about anti-aging, about being healthy from the inside and the outside.
Yes.
So we work a lot with peptides, plant-based stem cells, which helps repair protein structure, vitamin C. So all those 3 main ingredients just help.
And this is
Everything
the whole
helps.
line right here.
Pretty much. We have some more stuff, but this is pretty much the whole line, just to get a visual on it. And we do sell it online.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
and before when you mentioned online, before we went on air, because we are a certain age, I asked her how
we
are
just
you
said our age.
I asked her about how she's embracing social media, because when people started businesses 25, 30 years ago, there was no such thing, and then you feel that you don't need it, but then you find you have to adapt to it. And so tell me a little bit about your experience about going through social media to bring more clients into your store.
The reason that the shop is named Helen's Haven is because I worked somewhere else. Now remember, this is 23 years ago, remember. So 23 years ago, I wanted to make sure that people understood it was the same person who were, so I wanted to use my name. And then, you did newspaper advertising back then, or maybe TV and radio. That's all you did.
Midweek was a big deal back then.
Right, exactly. Oh, that's how we started, ads in midweek. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
Every Wednesday.
So that's why the name, but now, today, with social media, I could probably name it anything. Because you can just click a button and see my picture or see who owns it or whatever. So I could have been Kahala Skincare or something, and then you would see. So I would have named it differently today than I did back then. Yeah. Because today now everyone's Helen's best friend, right? Can I talk to Helen? Can I talk to Helen? Can I talk to Helen?
I see.
Every salesman in the world, yes.
Because they know who you are now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, from the name of the shop, they don't,
Yeah.
So, but with social media, I would have done it differently.
You have Instagram. I saw your Instagram.
We have Instagram. We
you have your
Facebook.
own phone app. Which
Yes,
I really
we have
like.
our own phone app.
Why don't we go on that? Because I don't know too many businesses that have a phone app, and you have one, you've embraced it. What I like about it is when you go on her Instagram, it talks about scratching for a prize or something like that.
So, this is our Helen's Haven app. See?
That is so cool.
So the scratch off we enable randomly because we've found that you can scratch it once a day. But people do it once, maybe twice, and then they forget. Except for some people who never forget. And so then you end up with the same winner. So we want to be more random.
Right.
So You can scratch, you just with your finger and win different prizes. You can do appointments. Oh, look, you can look at all our staff. So that's everybody who works here.
So it's kind of like your website on your app.
Yeah.
And it's not just your website adapted to the cell phone, but it's an actual app, which I really like.
And our loyalty program is here. So when you come in, we hit this, we scan in a code, and look, it changes color.
Wow.
And then when you have 6 of them, you get $75 off your next service.
Wow. So, I like that.
Yeah. So people just come in and hand us their phone. They're like, I need my color. I need my update.
It's better than the punch card from the yesteryear.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you've evolved. I mean,
hated the punch cards.
You came into business when there was no Google, there was no computers, and you've had to the transition through technology. And sometimes technology can be your friend or your foe because because of the learning curve, and it changes so quickly. Right. And so you've adapted to that.
You know, the interesting thing, I think, from my perspective, and that could be because we're such a hands-on business. We're obviously a very touchy-feely business.
The massages, the facials, everything.
Yes. But you can start a business and do well with social media, with Instagram and Facebook. But you don't want to isolate yourself. You know, I started by being in the community. By going to different business meetings, by meeting people face to face, and there's power in that.
Right, right.
You know, and for those of you in Honolulu is still a small town. You know, it's getting to meet people, it's getting to know people.
Exactly.
It's spending time.
And that's exactly what the other people that I've interviewed, they've done the same thing. They've gone out to the community. Right. And like you said, not be so isolated to social media because that can be one-sided as well, just like you're saying.
Right, right. And I always tell my staff, how we pay the bills is skincare, injectables, Botox fillers, whatever. That's how we pay the bills. But what we do is establish relationships.
Exactly.
You know, a client comes in.
It's all about the relationship.
A client spends an hour and a half with you in a treatment room.
Right, right.
They're airing all their dirty laundry. You know, and there's something sacred in that.
Right, right.
There's something that people, you have to build trust and relationship with them. Yeah. And then they look good. Bonus.
Yeah. So you get to like unload, look good.
Yeah, there you go.
And know that it's where your information went is very discreet. Nobody's going to share it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about what you offer. The one thing I want to touch on, because I went on your website, it talked about the waterless pedicure. Right. And I found that very intriguing because I've never been through one, so I'm going to have to go to you for one. But tell us a little bit about why the benefits of a waterless pedicure as opposed to sticking your feet in a tub. Right.
So how that actually started is I hired somebody at the front desk, Lauren, and she went to school for manicures and pedicures. And she's like, well, can we do pedicures here? Well, if you can figure out how, we can do it.
So you're very open-minded.
She did. She figured out how. So they actually offer them in 2 of the Waikiki spas. So we went there to try them. And then she started offering them here. So the really, really lovely thing about it is that you're in a treatment room. So, I mean, you're laying down, taking a nap for an hour, having your feet worked on. I mean, come on, does it get better?
Right, right.
So she wraps your feet in hot, wet towels. It's actually so much more sanitary than going to a regular pedicure and putting your feet in.
That's what I read about it, is it doesn't have all that bacteria, and if you're diabetic, that could be really dangerous for you if you have a cut on your foot and somehow any of that bacteria gets into the skin. Right.
So it avoids all of that. And then she does, the cuticles and everything else normal. A good massage, of course, because she was taught by us, right? So it's not,
I love a foot massage.
So it's more specific, not just rubbing the lotion.
And tell us about your staff, because when you started, it was just you and another person, or just you?
Originally, it was just me. And then I had a person that I would call, because remember I had 2 treatment rooms in the beginning.
I remember.
So if I got too busy, I could call somebody in. So sort of like an on-call type of person.
Not a regular.
Yeah. And then slowly we increased staff. So at our largest, we had 13.
Wow.
But once the economy tanked, if anybody left for any reason, we just didn't rehire.
Oh, I see.
So now we have 7. But they've been here forever.
That's good.
A couple of my girls, Tiffany and Ronnie, have been here. I probably shouldn't say my girls. A couple of my employees.
They're like your girls.
Yeah. Ronnie and Tiffany have worked here since the old shop.
Oh.
So Ronnie's little girl was a little girl. She was in diapers, a baby, and now I think she's 15.
Oh.
So, yeah, so it's been a journey.
It
for a lot
has.
of them. And you know what? The absolute blessing is during 2008 when everything tanked, they stick with it. They stayed here. And I think that's just amazing.
It is.
I really
it
think
is.
that's amazing.
They didn't jump ship and
Nope.
go somewhere else.
Nope.
No,
And I
that
think
says a
that's
lot
what's
about you,
amazing.
Helen. So, Helen, you gave some really great tips, especially about overcoming as a business owner, both personal and business. But what is one of the biggest tips that you have for anyone that might be looking into taking their dream and their passion and, you know, putting it toward a business? What would be one of the things you would absolutely say is necessary?
You know, I think for people who are just starting out, you know, it's a huge transition to go from the employee to the employer. That's huge for anybody, any industry. And you just don't know what you don't know. So for new people, get help. You know, that's what the SBA is there for.
Okay.
Get help. Because
guidance.
honestly, you don't know. And then you go to your first bank and the bank says no, and you're all upset. I mean, I remember crying and telling my husband, "The state hates me. I don't know what I did, but they hate me. They won't give me a permit." And you know, my husband just, you know what, you're in it too deep now. Like, all right, well, thanks. That was it. But you can't, you know, for anybody, you cannot give up. You cannot give up. You just, I think there's a time to let your business go. I mean, I'm looking for that. I don't know when that time is, but there's a time to let it go, to sell it to somebody, to maybe stop it, do something else. You know, I don't know for each individual when that will be.
You're not at that point
But-
right now. You're not ready to transition out of Helen's Haven. Or have you been thinking about it?
Oh, I've been thinking about it for 23 years.
Oh.
But, but no, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the $1 million buyer to walk in the door.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that it's just, if you lose your faith and you lose your hope, you're going to lose your business. So even when things are their most challenging, get support. I truly believe that you do not live life alone. Whether you get support from family, friends, church members, your temple members, you know, whatever it is.
Or you find a mentor.
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, whatever it is. But you need, I've always worked with a business coach also.
Wow.
And that has really helped. And I've worked with business coaches who lean towards marketing, ones that are more strictly financial. Let's get your costs in line, and and you know, there's something to that too, because when somebody tells you, "Oh, you know what, you're above industry standard," because when you think that your sales suck, and then you hear that, "Oh, we're not that bad, really?" You're like, "Oh, wow, great, let's move on." Okay, because you know, in your own mind, things sometimes are harder than what they appear.
Exactly. So you
You
need
know?
somebody from the outside to really take a look at
Absolutely.
that and guide you.
Absolutely. And I've always been open with my numbers. People who are just, you know, nobody's going to look at my paperwork. I'm like, "Oh, no, please, look at it, do it, whatever. Yeah, I don't care. Please take over the paperwork." So, yeah. So that, to me, you know, it takes a community.
It does. And also we want to kind of segue into that faith and hope, because you invited me to speak at one of your, are you still the president
Full
of that?
Gospel
Okay, Full Gospel
Business Women's
Business Women.
Fellowship International.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It is.
But
It is.
yeah, it
is.
was maybe about 2 years ago that Helen had a grouping out in the University Avenue little restaurant, and I was able to give a testimony which was very impactful to everyone. And that kind of started my journey on having the faith if you're finding something that you really love. And that time I was doing interviews with attorneys and judges, legal advice in paradise. But I always had this curiosity. I remember sitting in downtown Honolulu during lunch hour and watching people go by, and I thought, if I could get paid to watch people and talk to them, I would love to do that. And that was years ago, and this is what I do today.
Ah,
I know.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Helen, thank you so much for sharing with us. Just tell us a little bit about where you're located and your hours, and then what you offer.
We are in the Kahala area. We are on the mountain side of Kilauea Avenue. So across from the mall, we're on the mountain side, and we're in a little one-story building that has Territorial Savings Bank in it. We're inside that building on the left. We've been obviously open 23 years. We do facials, massages, lasering, Botox, fillers, all kinds of exfoliating, hydrating kind of stuff. If you need it done, we probably do it. Go ahead and call us. We are closed on Sundays and Wednesdays. So this is a Wednesday, so it's our off day, so this is what we're doing. So,
and what's your phone number so people can contact you?
808-739-0400.
Okay, and your website?
HelensHaven.com.
Cool. And you have an Instagram, which is...
We have an Instagram. We have a Facebook. We're on Yelp.
Wow.
We have an app for your phone.
Yeah, I like
If you can't find us, you're not trying.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Helen, for sharing so much.
Thanks.
And I love it that leaders such as yourself, businesswomen, even the businessmen that I've interviewed, they're so more accessible. They're willing to share because they have a lot of pearls of wisdom to offer you. So if you ever come across a business owner such as Helen and you want to pick her brain, I'm pretty sure she'd love to give you some advice to help you along your way and, go after what you're passionate and what you're dreaming about, as far as a business or anything in life. Yeah. So at the end of our shows, we like to shaka out.
Aloha.
And then on our iTunes, we want to say aloha and a hui ho.